So, you've created your Pinterest boards, scoured the home magazines, created an amazingly concise brief for your architect, and are feeling raring to go on your remodel or build. But hold up there just a minute. How are you going to pay for this? And how much is it going to cost? Today on the CJ and Build podcast, we are talking about money and budgets. Many people, especially women, are so hesitant to talk about money in any meaningful way in so many aspects of their lives. Salaries, costs of clothes, of vacations, of homes, etc. Trust me, I'm as guilty as the next person. And I kind of get it. I mean, there are some things we should be private about. And if we have more to spend than someone else, we don't like to admit it and make someone feel bad. And if we have less to spend, we don't want to admit that either. But with renovations and new builds, you need to forget that mindset and talk about money, money, money. My daughter had this amazing fourth grade teacher named B, and one of the things she tried to drill into them over the course of the school year was that they needed to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. She even made them t-shirts with that saying on it. The same is true for talking about budget when it comes to your home remodel, even if it feels hard and uncomfortable. If you don't talk about it early and often, how is your budget even remotely going to be respected and adhered to? But of course, that begs the question, how do you know your budget? Maybe you have unlimited funds or a trust fund. Yay, you. Or maybe you recently came into an inheritance, in which case I'm sorry for your loss, but I guess also yay you on the budget front. But most people have been squirreling away money for a while and or plan to do some kind of financing. I'm not going to dwell on financing, but I will talk about it for a minute. Unlike when you are just buying a house, you can't get a mortgage for a remodel or a new build. Of course, that doesn't mean you can't borrow money from the bank. Some of the most popular ways to finance these projects are home equity lines of credit, where you borrow against the equity in your house, refinancing your mortgage in a way that lets you take cash out to use for the project, construction loans, and sometimes even just using your credit card if the amount needed makes sense. I mean, if you can redo your bathroom and get miles to travel somewhere, who am I to complain? Talk to your accountant, financial advisor, or local bank rep to really understand the options. Depending on the scope of the project, the price could be very different. Paying for a small bathroom renovation is not the same as a kitchen remodel, which is not the same as a whole home renovation, or, of course, a new build. Like with buying a house, you yourself and your partner need to determine what the number is that you can afford to spend on any renovation or build. That number may be enough to do what you want, or it may not be, and you will need to scale back or wait until you are in a better financial position. The trick is, how do you determine that before getting too far down the line? It's not like when you're buying a house and can see the price right there on the listing. If I told you I needed to stock my fridge, and so I needed to go buy milk and bread and butter, etc., I would have a general idea of what that would cost, because of course, I buy groceries on the regular. And if I asked you about it, you would be able to give me a general cost as well. I could even go online to my local grocery store and find out exactly what they would charge in advance. Not so easy, though, with home construction, and as a result, it's easy to feel like you are flying blind while walking on a trapeze without a net. But the first step, like if you were just purchasing, is to have a sense of how much you can spend. And at your very first meeting, your architect should ask about budget. Be as upfront as possible. You also need to know what the number you're giving them includes. Let's say your budget is $100,000. Is that just for the build? For the architect and the build? What about the cost of moving out and living somewhere else temporarily during the construction if you need to? What about any landscaping costs? Make sure you and everyone else knows what needs to be factored into this figure. Don't assume anything, and don't think that talking about your budget in that first meeting or two is enough. Talk about it a lot. Ask up front how they will ensure their design will be reflective of your budget. Ask if they think what you're asking for and your budget jive. But know this, they may not know the answer. And spoiler alert, some architects really don't even think about your budget. They are only focused on the design. Here's what you don't want to happen. You hire an architect, they come up with a design you love. You bid it out to contractors, and the proposals come back so much higher than you ever imagined. Because then what happens? Either you have to go back and change your design in a way to bring down the cost to build, which, mind you, might cost money in and of itself to change the plans at this point. Or if you were decided you are going to spend the money, you now have to spend more money, which is likely not what you were looking to do. Either way, that's not the vibe you want going into your build. So what can you do to try and prevent this all too common scenario? When you talk to your architect about budget, really ask them about how they are keeping your budget in mind as they do their piece of your project. Make all decisions in the design and define stage while the plans are being drawn. Let me repeat that. Make all the decisions here. Let's take the most obvious, kitchen cabinets. If you have a set of plans and you don't specify the cabinets, a contractor gives you a bid on your plans and for cabinets has an allowance. To use easy numbers, we'll say $5,000. But if you haven't been clear about what cabinets, you have no idea what level of cabinet they think is that $5,000. Are they thinking IKEA, builder grade, custom? If they're thinking builder grade and you are thinking custom, when it comes time to order the cabinets, you're going to be mighty surprised to find that the custom ones you want are triple the price of the allowance the contractor put on paper. The more you can select up front, the less chance you have of allowances being budget busters. The proposal will be based on fact, not options, and as such be a true picture of the cost. Be sure to talk through all of the line items with prospective builders. This may sound controversial, but frankly, one of the best ways to get a sense of what things cost to build and to prevent proposal sticker shock is to involve a builder in the design stage. This doesn't mean you need to hire them for the build, and not all builders will do this, but smart builders will let you hire them as a consultant to help you keep to the budget as plans are being drawn up. They're basically doing a pre-bid bid. Yes, this may mean a little bit more cost to you in this phase, but the idea is to save money and heartache in the overall project. You don't want to feel like you're going backwards when you get to the bid stage because of cost. This will be so disheartening. There are enough little frustrations in any project. You don't want this to be one of them. Be really, really mindful of changing your mind once plans are complete. Anytime you change your mind during the build stage, or anytime you decide to add something that wasn't in the initial scope, well, that's a change order. And in addition to the cost of what it is you're changing or adding, you usually pay an extra fee for any change order. These can add up pretty easily, which is a shame, since they could be avoided by making all these decisions up front. There are also so many unexpecteds that can affect your budget. Cost of goods can go up significantly. If you started a project in early 2020 and had picked out your floor and your bid was based on the floor that you wanted, by the time that wood got purchased, it might have gone up 25% in price because of all the COVID-related supply issues. Or, as we have all seen on TV, when your contractor opened up a wall, she may have found big electrical or plumbing issues. Surprise! Quick aside, if you recall way back in the season, we talked about the benefits of spending a little bit of money in the beginning to do a home inspection to prevent some surprises coming out during a build phase. That idea is looking pretty good right now when your builder tells you your electric is not up to code and will need to be completely upgraded. It's also why every budget needs a contingency. Depending on the size of the project, I would recommend 10 to 20%. And think of this as money you'll definitely need to spend. Don't just put it in the budget just in case, but not really think you're going to spend it, and without factoring it into what you have for your overall spend. Better to be pleasantly surprised when you don't need it than to scramble to find more money if you do. Once you sign a contract with a builder, you have not passed on budget responsibility to them. You should be looking at the numbers once or twice a month at least. You should have spelled out in the contract how your contractor is going to provide information related to the budget. One of my favorite ways to get this information was a monthly statement of values. My contractor would send me a spreadsheet that had each task or line item with its budgeted amount. Then it would show how much had been spent to date on that item and how much had been spent that month. It was a great way to keep track not just of the numbers themselves, but of what was happening on site. It helped us feel in control of our money during the process and not like we were just throwing it at a pit of a construction zone. Thinking about budget is a lot. Even thinking about how I was going to frame this episode was a lot because there are so many variables, so many unknowns. I wish I could sit here and say, okay, this is what it's going to cost to do X in this city, and so that's what you need to budget. And this is what it's going to cost to do Y, and that is what you need to budget. But I can't do that. And it's really stressful to think that there are so many unknowns about something that is costing so much money. All you can do is know what you have to spend and be as honest and upfront and aware as you go through the process. We have just scratched the surface here, but hopefully it has given you some insights in what to do and how to approach the budget side of your renovation. Thanks for listening.